The galaxy was no longer bright. Once the stars had shone with endless life, each system home to many worlds and many people. Now many of those lights were fading. A strange and terrible force was moving through space. It was called the Veil. No one knew where it came from. It was like a wave of dark mist that drifted between stars. Wherever it passed, power died. Machines stopped. Plants withered. Even the very light of suns grew weaker, as if something was drinking their energy. Many great civilizations had tried to stop it. The crystal-minded Solari, who once shaped stars like clay, sent fleets of energy ships to blast the Veil. The weapons vanished into the darkness, swallowed without a sound. The machine networks of the Avox, older than most galaxies, built walls of pure quantum force. The Veil slid through them like water through sand. The proud warrior species known as the Vathari tried to fight with sheer strength. Their fleets disappeared, leaving only silent beacons drifting in dead space. The galaxy was full of fear. Some worlds prayed to their ancient gods. Others built giant ships to flee into the endless void. Still others hid in underground cities, hoping the Veil would pass them by. But everyone knew the truth. Nothing could escape forever. The Veil was moving everywhere, slow but unstoppable. Entire clusters of stars dimmed in its path, leaving only a cold emptiness behind. Far from the great centers of power, there was a small blue planet called Earth. Its people, the humans, were not counted among the mighty races. They were young in galactic terms, only a few thousand years into space travel. The Great Council world saw them as curious traders, clever explorers, and sometimes stubborn fighters, but never as leaders. Humans had a talent for survival, but they lacked the grand technologies of the Solari or the timeless wisdom of the Aurelians. Yet on Earth, the news of the Veil spread like fire. Human scientists gathered every report from alien channels. They studied broken signals from dying worlds. They watched the path of the dark wave as it slowly curved toward the spiral arm where Earth lived. Many leaders tried to calm their people, but everyone felt the same cold fear. If the strongest species could not stop the Veil, what chance did humans have? Among the scientists was Dr. Arya Novak, a woman who refused to surrender to despair. Arya had grown up staring at the night sky, loving the mystery of distant stars. She had joined the Interstellar Research Union when she was only 20, earning respect for her brilliant mind and fearless questions. When reports of the Veil began, she left her comfortable post on Luna Station and joined a special research team hidden deep in the ice caves of Europa. Arya studied the data with sharp eyes. She noticed small details others had ignored. The Veil did not move like a simple cloud. Its edges pulsed in rhythms almost like a heartbeat. Sometimes it slowed for no reason, then rushed forward again. Its path curved in strange patterns as if it was looking for something. To Arya, the Veil felt alive. Her colleagues dismissed her idea. They were trained to think in equations and numbers. To them, the Veil was an energy phenomenon, nothing more. But Arya kept searching. She believed that understanding its behavior could reveal a weakness. She collected every scrap of information, old sensor logs, forgotten alien myths, even poems from dying civilizations. Anything that might hide a clue. While Arya worked in her icy lab, events in the wider galaxy grew worse. The Council of Stars, a gathering of the surviving great powers, met in endless sessions. They argued over weapons, alliances, and evacuation plans. Every proposal failed. Their proud voices grew weaker with each lost system. Hope was running out. On the human colony of Kepler 88d, Captain Elias Ward watched the council meetings through secure channels. A veteran of deep space missions, Elias had faced black holes, radiation storms, and hostile borders. But nothing had ever frightened him like the silent approach of the Veil. He admired Arya's reports and quietly sent her all the field data his patrol ships could gather. Though they had never met in person, he felt a strange connection to her determination. Back on Earth, ordinary people tried to live their lives. Children still played in city parks. Farmers still harvested their fields. But the night sky was changing. In some regions, stars that had shone for centuries were gone. People would point to the empty spots and whisper stories. Some called the Veil a punishment. Others called it a test. A few even thought it might be a form of life-seeking communication, but most were simply afraid. Arya watched the fear grow and knew time was short. She sent a proposal to the Human Space Agency. Humans should not wait for the Council to act. They should send their own mission into the Veil to gather direct readings and search for signs of intelligence. Many officials called her plan reckless. No ship that entered the Veil had ever returned. But Arya argued that doing nothing was the greatest risk of all. "If we keep watching from afar," she said in a public broadcast, "we will learn nothing. If we go closer, we may find something everyone else has missed." Her speech spread quickly across human networks. Citizens, students, explorers, and even artists sent messages of support. They liked her courage. They liked the idea that humans could try when others had given up. Slowly, pressure grew on the leaders to listen. Meanwhile, the Council of Stars debated their own desperate measures. The Solari planned to ignite entire suns to create energy barriers. The Vathari prepared a final fleet of warships to strike at the Veil's center. But every plan carried terrible risks, and none offered true hope. Rumors whispered through the halls of the Council. Perhaps the young species, the humans, were preparing something different. In the cold tunnels of Europa, Arya stared at the newest data. The Veil's pattern was changing. It was bending toward a dense cluster of neutron stars, a region known for unstable gravity. The movement looked almost intentional. Arya felt a shiver of both fear and excitement. "It's searching," she whispered to herself. But for what? Far away, Captain Elias prepared his exploration fleet. Though no official order had been given, he began readying a small research vessel named Dauntless. It was fast, strong, and built to handle unknown conditions. Elias believed that if the mission was approved, Dauntless would lead the way. Across the galaxy, alien leaders dismissed humans as dreamers. But in quiet corners, a few began to hope. The wise but dying Aurelians, who had seen thousands of star ages, sent a private message to Arya. They offered access to their oldest records, fragments of songs and symbols from a time before the Veil. "Perhaps," their envoy wrote, "your kind will hear what we could not." The message filled Arya with a strange warmth. She thought of the long history of humans, of artists who painted caves before fire was common, of sailors who crossed unknown oceans, of explorers who stepped onto new worlds. Again and again, humans had faced the impossible and found a way. Maybe that was their true strength. Not their machines, not their armies, but their ability to keep trying when all logic said to stop. Outside the icy windows of Europa Station, Jupiter glowed like a giant lantern. Arya pressed her hand against the glass and whispered a quiet promise. "We will not hide," she said. "We will not wait for the end. We will go." In that moment, something shifted inside her. Fear was still there, but it was joined by a bright spark of determination. The Veil was coming, but so were the humans. And in a galaxy drowning in silence, that single spark of hope was enough to begin a journey that could change everything. The Council of Stars met inside a vast ring-shaped station that floated between two suns. Its halls were made of shining crystal and ancient alloys, strong enough to survive a supernova. Here, the leaders of the surviving civilizations gathered to decide the fate of the galaxy. Normally, their meetings were filled with loud speeches and bright ceremonial lights, but now the chamber was dim and silent. The shadow of the Veil hung over every thought. Representatives of the proud Solari sat behind walls of glowing mist, their crystal bodies sparkling with inner light. The warlike Vathari wore dark armor that reflected the faint glow of the council lamps. The machine minds of the Avox projected themselves as floating symbols, perfect and cold. Among them sat a small group of humans, almost unnoticed at first. Their seats were simple metal chairs compared to the grand thrones of other species. Captain Elias Ward led the human delegation. He wore a plain uniform without the shining badges the others loved. Beside him sat Dr. Arya Novak, her eyes sharp as she studied the alien faces. Around them were two other humans, Minister Hannah Rourke, a skilled diplomat, and technician Liam Chen, who managed the flow of live data from Earth. They were a small team, but they carried the weight of an entire species. The meeting began with grim reports. Worlds along the Orion path had gone silent. The Veil's edge was now less than 50 light-years from the Aurelians' last sanctuary. Great fleets had tried to slow it, but all failed. The Vathari commander pounded his armored fist on the table, demanding another attack. "We must strike with every weapon we have," he growled through a translator sphere. "Only force can defeat force," the Solari envoy answered with a voice like ringing glass. "We have used force. We have used science. Both have failed. Every strike only feeds the Veil's hunger." The council chamber filled with angry echoes. Some demanded stronger weapons. Others called for mass evacuations. A few whispered about surrender to the unknown. Through it all, the humans remained quiet, watching and listening. At last, the presiding Avok's mind asked if any new proposals existed. Its symbol flickered like cold fire. "Speak if you hold a plan," it said. "Or we will continue the debate of despair." Captain Elias rose. His plain uniform looked almost out of place among the shining robes and living crystals. But his voice was steady. "Humanity does have a proposal," he said. "Not a weapon, not an escape, an idea." The council chamber grew still. Many alien eyes turned toward him with curiosity or disbelief. Few expected anything useful from a species so young. Dr. Arya stood beside Elias and spoke with calm confidence. "For years we have studied the Veil's movement. It does not behave like a natural storm. Its patterns suggest intention. We believe the Veil is not just an energy field. It may be a form of consciousness, an intelligence we do not yet understand." The Vithari commander let out a low growl. "You call the enemy a thinking creature? Nonsense. It destroys everything it touches." Arya met his fierce gaze without fear. "Perhaps it destroys because no one has tried to speak to it. All efforts so far have been attacks or barriers. We propose a different approach, communication." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The Solari envoy tilted its glowing head. "Communicate? With a force of annihilation?" "Yes," Arya said. "If the Veil has intention, it might respond to signals, but not mathematical codes alone. It may require something more complex, patterns of emotion, creativity, and chaos. Humans excel at such patterns. Our music, our stories, our art are forms of communication beyond pure logic." A wave of disbelief swept through the chamber. The machine Avok symbols flickered in confusion. To them, emotion was useless noise. The Vithari commander slammed his fist again. "You want to sing to the darkness while it devours our worlds?" Captain Elias kept his voice calm but firm. "Every weapon you have tried has failed. We offer a plan that is different, not foolish. If there is even a small chance to understand the Veil, we must try before firing the next gun." Silence followed. The Aurelians, ancient and wise, finally spoke. Their elder representative, a tall being of shimmering light, turned toward the humans. "Your idea carries danger," it said softly. "But it also carries possibility. Perhaps the youngest species may see what the oldest cannot." After long hours of debate, a fragile decision formed. The Council would not commit fleets or weapons to this human plan, but they would allow a joint mission. A single ship would enter the Veil to attempt contact. If it failed, the Council would return to more violent measures. It was a small window of hope, but a window nonetheless. Outside the Council chamber, tension buzzed like static. Some alien delegates whispered that humans were reckless dreamers. Others quietly admired their courage. For the first time, the galaxy looked at humanity not as traders or explorers, but as a species willing to risk everything for a chance at understanding. Back in the private human quarters, Elias and Arya discussed the next step. "We have one chance," Elias said, pacing across the narrow room. "If we fail, the Council will unleash every weapon they have. The Veil could react in ways none of us can predict." Arya leaned over a table covered with holographic maps. "Then we cannot fail," she said simply. "We need the best crew, human minds for creativity, alien engineers for survival, and we need a ship that can reach the heart of the Veil before it changes direction again." Elias smiled slightly. "I already have one in mind. The Dauntless. She's small but fast, built for deep exploration in strange environments. I commanded her once. She can take us where no Council fleet would dare to go." Arya nodded, her eyes bright with determination. "Then Dauntless will be our key." While preparations began in secret, the news of the Council's decision leaked across the galaxy. Ordinary citizens of many species reacted with surprise and hope. On distant worlds, children listened to broadcasts about the human plan and dreamed that someone might finally stop the darkness without more death. Small groups of artists and musicians began sending recordings toward Earth, offering their creations to be included in the attempt. Even species who once ignored humans now sent messages of support, but not everyone approved. The Vithari military leaders called the plan a dangerous distraction. Their fleets continued to gather near the edge of the Veil, ready to launch a final assault. The machine minds of the Avoks quietly prepared hidden algorithms, unwilling to trust illogical methods. The fragile alliance could break at any moment. On Earth, people reacted with a mix of pride and fear. Families lit candles in windows for the brave crew who would soon leave. Schools held gatherings where children painted stars and sent digital art to the mission team. Music festivals played across continents, filling the planet with sounds meant to carry a message of life. Deep beneath Europa's ice, Aria received the first combined recordings. Human songs mixed with alien harmonies. Colors, shapes, and rhythms from dozens of worlds formed a growing tapestry of beauty. She smiled as she watched the patterns dance across the screen. "This," she whispered, "is what the Veil must hear." Meanwhile, Captain Elias oversaw the final upgrades to the Dauntless. Engineers from 3 different species worked side by side, adjusting shields and power systems. The ship's sleek silver hull glowed softly in the dim hangar light. It was built for endurance and speed, but now it carried something even more important: the hopes of an entire galaxy. One evening, as the last tests were completed, Elias stood on a quiet observation deck. Through the transparent dome, he could see the twin suns of the Council Station. One was pale blue, the other deep gold. Between them stretched a thin line of darkness, a reminder of the approaching Veil. He thought of the billions of lives depending on their mission. He thought of Aria's belief that communication, not destruction, might save them all. Footsteps approached. Aria joined him, holding a tablet filled with new data. "The Veil's path is shifting again," she said softly. "It's bending toward the neutron crown cluster. If we don't leave within 5 days, we may lose our chance to reach the core." Elias nodded. "Then we leave in 4. They stood side by side, watching the distant stars. Around them, the galaxy trembled on the edge of despair. Yet in this quiet moment, a fragile alliance had been born. A small team of humans and allies, carrying music instead of weapons, preparing to sail into darkness. And though fear still lingered, a spark of hope glowed brighter than the suns. For the first time in countless cycles, the galaxy believed that maybe, just maybe, salvation was still possible. The research ship Dauntless waited like a silver arrow in the great hangar of the Council Station. Its polished hull shimmered under the cold lights, and its engines hummed with quiet power. To many who saw it, the Dauntless looked small compared to the giant warships that once filled these docks. But to Captain Elias Ward, it was perfect. Built for speed, endurance, and daring journeys where no heavy fleet could survive. On the day of launch, crews from 3 species worked side by side. Human engineers checked the life support systems. Aurelians tuned the delicate resonance emitters. Avox technicians hovered like silent symbols as they adjusted quantum sensors. The hangar was alive with movement, a living sign of the fragile alliance that had formed. Everyone knew the mission was dangerous. No ship had ever entered the Veil and returned. But the Dauntless carried more than equipment. It carried the last hope of an entire galaxy. Captain Elias walked the main deck, his boots echoing against the polished floor. He paused to greet each member of the crew. Some were human, scientists, pilots, engineers. Others were alien specialists. A Solari energy mathematician named Lyran, whose body glittered like living crystal. An Aurelian navigator, Sorel, whose glowing eyes could read the faintest gravity shifts. And a small sphere-shaped Avox named Unit 7, whose voice came in soft musical tones. Despite their differences, they shared the same goal: reach the Veil's core, study its patterns, and attempt to communicate. Dr. Aria Novak stood near the central console, her eyes scanning streams of data. Her heart pounded as the countdown began. For years she had studied the Veil from a safe distance, searching for clues in fading signals. Now she was about to face it directly. Fear tugged at her, but determination burned brighter. "We must try," she whispered to herself. "We must learn what others could not." The launch sequence began. Lights dimmed, engines roared, and the Dauntless lifted from the hangar floor. Through the forward window, the Council Station shrank into a distant circle of light. The twin suns glowed far behind, while ahead stretched the endless black sea of space. As the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, the stars turned into streaks of silver. A quiet settled over the crew, a silence filled with both excitement and unspoken fear. Days passed as the Dauntless sped toward the Veil. At first, the journey felt almost peaceful. Crew members shared meals in the common room. Humans taught alien allies simple Earth songs, and the Aurelians responded with glowing patterns of light that moved like music. Arya found comfort in these moments. They reminded her of why the mission mattered, to protect not just one species but the beauty of many. But the closer they came, the stranger space became. Instruments began to show faint distortions. Stars ahead flickered in irregular rhythms. Gravity waves pulsed like a distant heartbeat. The veil was still several light days away, yet its presence could already be felt. "It's like it knows we're coming," Sorel murmured, her glowing eyes fixed on the sensors. Elias tightened his grip on the command rail. "Stay sharp," he said. "Report any anomalies immediately." As they crossed the final boundary, the view outside changed. The familiar stars faded behind a wall of soft darkness. It was not empty blackness, but a shifting mist of deep silver and pale blue. The veil shimmered like a living ocean, its currents flowing in patterns no chart could predict. Energy readings jumped wildly, then fell silent, as if the ship's sensors were struggling to understand what they saw. "Entering the veil," Elias announced. His voice was steady, but everyone felt the weight of the moment. No one knew if they would ever leave. Inside the veil, space behaved like a dream. Light bent in slow waves, forming strange shapes that danced across the windows. At times, the crew thought they saw faint images, shadows of cities, fragments of stars, echoes of faces. But when they looked again, the shapes were gone. Unit 7's voice broke the silence. "Sensors detect rhythmic fluctuations," it said in soft musical tones. "Patterns resemble cognitive signals, perhaps similar to thought." Arya leaned forward. "Show me." The AVOX projected a shimmering hologram. Lines of light formed curves and spirals, repeating in sequences that were not random. Arya's eyes widened. "It's like a language," she whispered. "Not numbers, not pure energy. Something more. Alive." Lyron, the Solari mathematician, tilted his crystal head. "If this is language, it is beyond formal logic. It moves with feeling." Elias glanced at Arya. "Your theory," he said quietly. "You were right. This thing isn't just a storm." The ship continued deeper. The patterns grew stronger, almost playful at times, then suddenly sharp like a warning. Power systems flickered as if responding to the rhythms. At one point, the engines slowed without command, as though the veil itself was holding them in place. Surreal's glowing eyes darted across the navigation board. "We are being guided," she said. "The veil is shaping our path." Elias's jaw tightened. "Guided where?" Before anyone could answer, a sudden flash of light filled the cabin. Alarm screamed. The Dauntless shook as an invisible force pressed against the hull. Gravity surged and then vanished. For a moment, the crew floated weightless. Through the forward window, a vast shape appeared, a swirling vortex of light and shadow like a cosmic eye staring back at them. Arya's breath caught. "It's beautiful," she said softly. The vortex pulsed in slow rhythm. With each pulse, the ship's sensors recorded waves of strange energy. Unit 7 translated them into sound, a deep hum that resonated through the cabin. It was not random noise. It rose and fell like music, carrying a strange emotional weight. Loneliness, sadness, and something else that felt like a question. "It's communicating," Arya said, her voice trembling. "It's asking something." Elias steadied himself against the rail. "Can we answer?" "We can try," Arya replied. She turned to the console and began loading the resonance program the team had prepared. A collection of human music, stories, and art combined with alien harmonies. Together they formed a signal of emotion rather than logic. But as she worked, the ship shuddered again. The vortex's pulses grew stronger, almost desperate. Screens flickered with flashes of ancient images, dying stars, broken worlds, and shapes of life unknown to any catalog. The veil was showing memories, its own memories, if such a thing was possible. Surreal whispered, "It is not only speaking, it is remembering." Arya's fingers flew across the controls. "If it remembers, it feels. And if it feels, we can reach it." With a final command, she activated the resonance signal. Deep within the ship, emitters powered up, releasing waves of sound and light that merged into a single living pattern. The message carried the laughter of children, the sorrow of lost worlds, the triumph of explorers, and the quiet hope of countless beings. The Dauntless, filled with music and light. The vortex paused. The pressing force eased. The pulses slowed to match the rhythm of the signal. For a heartbeat, the entire crew held their breath. Then something extraordinary happened. The swirling mist around the ship began to glow with soft colors, emerald, violet, gold. Shapes of distant galaxies flickered within the light, like memories of a long-forgotten time. The deep hum of the veil changed, rising into a gentle harmony that wrapped around the ship like a welcome. "It's listening," Arya whispered. But the moment of peace did not last. Alarms blared again as a sudden surge of energy ripped through the ship's systems. Shields flickered. Power dropped. The veil's harmony shifted to a sharp, urgent rhythm. Unit 7's voice turned cold. "Energy spike detected. Core instability approaching." Arya looked at the data in shock. The veil is collapsing inward. It's not attacking, it's breaking apart. Elias gripped the command rail. "Can we hold position?" "Not for long," Sorel replied. "The gravity flux will tear us apart if we stay." Arya's mind raced. If the veil was collapsing, their chance to communicate might vanish forever. But if they stayed, the Dauntless could be lost. Elias met her eyes. "Doctor, we came here to speak. Do we stay and finish the message, or do we run?" Arya hesitated only a moment. "We stay, just a little longer. We have to let it hear everything." Elias nodded. "All stations, brace for full signal amplification." The crew worked quickly, combining every pattern they had collected. Human songs, Aurelian harmonies, Solari light codes, even the quiet logic of the Avox. Together they sent a final, unified message into the heart of the veil. Outside, the collapsing vortex trembled. The mist of darkness brightened into a dazzling storm of colors. Waves of energy rolled across space, carrying the combined voices of a galaxy that refused to give up. The Dauntless shuddered under the pressure, but its crew held their ground. They had come to the heart of darkness not to destroy, but to understand. And in that fragile moment, as music and light filled the void, it seemed the veil itself was listening with a heart as old as the stars. The Dauntless trembled like a living creature as the veil's storm surrounded it. Brilliant colors flashed across the windows, violet, emerald, and deep silver, while the ship's shields groaned against the crushing gravity. Inside, alarms cried out in sharp, endless tones. Yet in the command deck, Captain Elias Ward stood steady, his hands gripping the rail. He had faced many dangers in his long career, but nothing matched the strange power pressing on the ship from every direction. Dr. Arya Novak stared at the sensor screens, her eyes wide but unafraid. The patterns from the veil were changing faster than any machine could track. They rose and fell like music, like a heartbeat. "It's trying to respond," she said softly. "It's not attacking, it's reaching back." The alien members of the crew exchanged uneasy looks. Lyran, the crystal-bodied Solari, tilted his shining head. "If this is communication," he said, "it is beyond our mathematics. The rhythms defy calculation." Sorel, the glowing Aurelian navigator, added, "It is speaking in feelings, not words. This is dangerous. If we misread it, the veil might collapse entirely." Captain Elias glanced toward Arya. "Can we answer?" "We already have," she replied. "Our signal carries art and music from many species. But it needs something more, something only humans can give." The ship shook violently, cutting off her words. Gravity surged and vanished in waves. Loose tools floated into the air, then slammed back to the floor. Sparks rained from a damaged panel. Unit 7, the small Avox intelligence, reported in its soft musical tone, power levels dropping. Structural integrity at 60%. Elias steadied himself and barked an order. "Hold the course. Reinforce shields. No one breaks rank." Crew members rushed to obey, their movements quick and precise. Yet fear lingered in their eyes. The veil's energy was far stronger than anything they had faced. Even with the combined knowledge of many species, their technology might not survive another surge. Arya ignored the alarms and focused on the patterns flowing across her console. The veil's signals carried an emotion she recognized: loneliness. It felt like a mind crying across endless space, desperate to be heard. She thought of ancient human explorers who crossed oceans, of the first people who dared to reach the stars. They too had once been lonely, surrounded by a universe that seemed too vast to understand. "It wants connection," Arya whispered. "It's afraid of being alone." Lyran looked at her, the light inside his crystal form flickering. "How can you be certain?" "Because I feel it," she answered. "Not with science, with being human." Elias moved closer. "If that's true, what do we send?" Arya's mind raced. The resonance signal they had prepared was powerful, but it was still a collection of recordings. Music, art, stories, beautiful, yes, but distant. The veil needed something alive, something made in this very moment. "We need a living message," she said, "not just data. We need to speak to it with our hearts." The idea startled the crew. Sorel's glowing eyes widened. "You propose to create a new signal inside this storm? That is madness. The energy could destroy the ship." "It might also save it," Arya replied. "And if we don't try, all of this, every star, every world, will be lost anyway." Elias gave a sharp nod. "Do it. Tell me what you need." Arya turned to the communication board. "I need everyone. Human and alien. We will create something together. A sound, a light pattern, anything that carries our emotions as one voice." Despite the danger, the crew obeyed. Lyran shaped crystals into harmonies of light. Sorel wove gravity waves into soft pulses. Unit 7 added mathematical tones, pure and steady. Human musicians on the lower decks brought instruments from Earth. A violin, a small drum, a simple wooden flute. Engineers adjusted the resonance emitters to blend it all into a single signal. Arya closed her eyes and added her own voice. She began to hum a gentle melody, a song her grandmother once sang beneath the stars of Earth. It was a song of longing and courage, of travelers who keep walking even when the night is endless. Slowly others joined. Different voices, different tones, alien harmonies mixing with human music until the sound became something new, something no single species could have created alone. The ship itself seemed to listen. Vibrations traveled through the metal hull, carrying the living signal outward. Waves of sound and light merged into a bright pattern that flowed beyond the Dauntless and into the swirling heart of the veil. Outside, the storm paused. The crushing gravity softened. Colors brightened into a soft golden glow. The deep pulses of the veil shifted to match the rhythm of the crew's creation. For a breathless moment, the entire galaxy seemed to hold still. Unit 7 sensors flickered wildly. "Energy stabilization detected," it reported. "The veil is resonating with our signal." Arya opened her eyes. The holographic patterns on her console now moved in graceful spirals like a dance of stars. "It understands," she said. "It's listening." But the veil was not yet calm. New waves of energy surged around the ship, not violent but urgent, as if the great consciousness was trying to share its own message. Images flashed across the windows. Distant galaxies, ancient stars being born, worlds covered in oceans of light. The crew gasped as the visions filled their minds, feelings of creation, loss, and endless searching. Surreal whispered, "It is showing us its memory." "It has been alone since the first light of the universe," Lyran added. "It feared we would only bring war as others did before, but now it hopes." Arya's heart swelled with emotion. She spoke softly toward the console, not caring whether the veil could truly hear her words. "You are not alone anymore." "We are here. We will not harm you," the veil answered with a gentle hum that filled every corner of the ship. Power level steadied. Shields strengthened. The crushing pressure eased into a soft embrace. It felt like a cosmic sigh of relief. Elias exhaled slowly, his hands relaxing on the rail. "Whatever you said, Doctor, it worked, but danger still lingered." Unit 7 reported a sudden spike in the core of the veil. "Central instability remains," it said. "Collapse of inner field likely within hours." Arya frowned. "If the core collapses, the energy release could destroy half the galaxy. We can't just calm it. We need to heal it." Elias asked the question that weighed on everyone. "How?" Arya thought quickly. "The veil is like a wounded mind. Our signal gives comfort, but it needs balance to survive. If we can create a resonance across the Council's entire network, the combined voices of many worlds might stabilize it." Sorel's eyes widened. "That would require a galactic broadcast. Impossible without Council approval." "Then we convince them," Elias said firmly. He turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to the Council. All frequencies." Static filled the air before a faint connection formed. The faces of alien leaders flickered onto the screen. Solari, Vathari, Avox, Aurelians, all watching with tense expressions. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the Dauntless," he began. "We have made contact with the Veil. It is not an enemy. It is a living intelligence in pain. We need every world to join our signal. Music, art, any expression of life. Together we can stabilize it." The council chamber erupted in confusion. Some leaders shouted warnings. The Vathari commander demanded proof. But the Aurelians, wise and ancient, raised their shimmering hands. "We have felt the shift," their elder said. "The darkness grows quiet. We will join the humans." One by one, other voices followed. The Solari offered their crystal harmonies. Even the proud Vathari, after long silence, agreed to send their ancient war songs as signals of unity. The Avox began uploading complex patterns of pure logic to blend with the emotional resonance. Across the galaxy, transmitters lit up. Worlds that once feared each other now worked as one. Signals of music, light, and art flowed through space, merging into a single grand message. The Dauntless became the center of a galaxy-wide chorus. Inside the ship, the crew felt the change. The Veil's colors brightened into dazzling waves of blue and gold. Energy spikes smoothed into gentle pulses. The once chaotic storm now moved in graceful harmony, like a great heart finally finding peace. Arya watched the readings with tears in her eyes. "It's working," she whispered. "We are healing it." Elias looked out at the glowing mist and felt a deep sense of awe. The smallest species, once dismissed as weak, had united the galaxy with nothing but hope, art, and courage. "This," he said quietly, "is the human key. Not weapons, not power, but the choice to believe that understanding is stronger than fear." The Veil answered with a final gentle pulse that bathed the Dauntless in warm light. It was a soundless promise. The storm would not end in destruction. Instead, something new was beginning. A harmony of life that reached from the smallest world to the farthest star. The Veil no longer raged. The swirling darkness that had consumed star systems for cycles now shimmered with calm, radiant light. Through the forward windows of the Dauntless, the crew could see a spectacle unlike any in the galaxy. Patterns of colors, flowing like ribbons across space, weaving together into a vast tapestry of life. Where once there had been only fear, now there was understanding. Captain Elias Ward stood at the command rail, his hands resting lightly, not out of weakness but in quiet awe. The pressure that had weighed on the ship, gravity surges, energy spikes, chaotic vibrations, was gone. The Veil had responded not with destruction but with harmony. It was as if the entire storm had become a single, conscious entity breathing alongside the ship. Dr. Arya Novak leaned over her console, tears bright in her eyes. For years she had studied the Veil from a safe distance, seeing only numbers and symbols. Now she understood it was far more than a natural phenomenon. It was alive. It had memory, emotion, and fear. Humanity's music, their art, their courage. It had spoken to that mind in a way no machine or weapon ever could. Around the command deck, the crew whispered in awe. Lyron, the crystal-bodied Solari, shifted with soft clicks. "I did not believe this possible," he said. "We fought, we calculated, and yet only humanity's simple expressions could reach it." Sorel, the glowing Aurelian navigator, nodded. They touched its heart. Unit 7, the small sphere of the Avox, pulsed with gentle tones. Emotional resonance has stabilized core energy. Probability of collapse reduced to less than 1%. Elias allowed himself a slow breath. "We've done it. We've actually done it." But the crew knew the mission was not over. The Veil still existed. Though calm, its energy was vast and the galaxy was not yet safe. Arya turned from her console to address the team. "We need to continue the signal. This is not just about reaching it. It's about teaching the Veil that life is not an enemy. The galaxy must join us or the risk of another collapse remains." Elias nodded. Then we broadcast again. On a larger scale, full galactic participation. Communications officers opened secure channels to every world that had previously contributed. One by one, planets responded. Songs, lights, colors, vibrations, messages of hope and life from thousands of species now filled the void. The Dauntless acted as a focal point, amplifying and blending every signal into a single wave of emotion. For hours, the crew worked tirelessly. Arya coordinated signals from distant colonies. Lyron adjusted the crystal harmonics to match new frequencies. Sorel guided the ship along safe paths through the Veil, and Unit 7 monitored energy flows to prevent surges. Together, they wove a living message of peace and unity. Outside, the Veil responded. Its colors pulsed in rhythm with the signals. Its storms slowed to gentle spirals. It seemed to hum, not in sound, but in a vibration that resonated through the hull of the Dauntless. For the first time, the crew felt what it meant to communicate with a mind beyond comprehension. a mind older than stars, yet capable of feeling hope. Hours passed, then days. The Veil's light began to spread outward, touching nearby star systems. Planets that had been silent for decades flickered back to life. Machines hummed again. Forests began to grow, rivers to flow, oceans to shine. Across the galaxy, hope returned in ways no weapon could have achieved. On the command deck, Arya smiled. "It's learning," she said softly. "It understands that life is not a threat. That connection, understanding, and hope are stronger than fear." Lyran shimmered brightly. "Your kind, humans, have done what we could not. You taught a cosmic mind to feel trust." Elias looked out the window at the calm light of the Veil. "No," he said slowly. "We didn't just teach it. We reminded the galaxy of what we already knew. When hope is gone, it's not strength or logic that saves us. It's courage and heart." The first transmissions of relief reached the Dauntless from the Council Station. The Solari, the Vathari, the Aurelians, even the Avox, all confirmed that the energy surges were stabilizing. Systems long thought lost were recovering. Ships that had fled dark sectors now returned with news of thriving stars. Humanity's message had become a bridge, a force of life that tied the galaxy together. As calm settled over the ship, the crew finally allowed themselves rest. Arya sat in the observation bay, looking at the Veil now transformed into a glowing field of soft blues, golds, and purples. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Not destroyed, but alive. Not an enemy, but healed." Elias joined her, placing a hand lightly on the railing. "And it's because humans refused to give up," he said. "When every race was lost in fear, you and your people chose to hope. That's what made the difference." Arya smiled faintly. "It's not just humans. Every species contributed, but yes, we humans led the way. We took the risk when others hesitated." The ship's sensors detected the final pulses of the Veil's response. The waves were stable now, flowing like gentle tides. The core, once unstable, had become a steady rhythm of life energy. The Veil would no longer devour star systems. It had become a guardian of balance, a force that now respected life rather than destroying it. For the first time in decades, the galaxy felt safe. But more than safety, it felt something deeper, renewed unity. Species that had once quarreled, feared, or ignored one another now worked together, bound by a shared miracle. The Dauntless prepared to leave the heart of the Veil. The crew moved with quiet pride. Every eye, human and alien, reflected awe and relief. The ship's engines hummed as it began the slow journey back to known space. Outside, the transformed Veil glimmered like a living aurora, a reminder of what had been accomplished and what had been saved. As they traveled, Elias gathered the crew on the main deck. "You have all done something remarkable," he said. "We faced a force no one understood. We risked everything, and we found a way not to destroy but to heal. The galaxy owes its life to each of you." Applause and soft tones filled the deck. Crew members smiled, some shedding tears of relief. For many, the mission had been terrifying, and yet, it had revealed the greatest truth. Even in darkness, hope could shine brighter than the strongest weapon. Arya stepped forward. "What we did here," she said, "is proof that life is not defined by strength alone. It's defined by our willingness to reach out, to understand, and to hope when all seems lost." The Veil was not just a force of destruction, it was a test of the galaxy's heart. "And we passed." Lyran's crystal body pulsed gently. "Your species, humans, will be remembered for this. You did not fight with weapons, yet you defeated despair itself." Sorel added, "We will teach this story to future generations. Every world must know that even the youngest, smallest, or most overlooked can change the fate of the stars." Unit 7's soft tones added a musical vibration, almost like a gentle bow. Mission success recorded. Galactic stabilization achieved. Emotional and cognitive resonance confirmed. As the Dauntless approached the Council Station, messages from leaders across the galaxy poured in. They were words of gratitude, admiration, and respect. Humanity, once seen as a minor species, was now celebrated as the savior of countless worlds. The Solari sent their ancient crystal songs. The Vathari offered symbols of honor. Even distant planets that had never interacted with humans sent messages of congratulations and thanks. Elias turned to Arya, his expression calm but proud. "We've done more than survive," he said. "We've reminded the galaxy of what matters most. And the veil? It's no longer a threat. It's part of the story now, a story of hope. Arya nodded, her eyes shining with tears. When hope was gone, she said softly, humans chose to bring it back. Not with force, not with fear, but with heart. That's our gift to the galaxy. Outside the windows, the stars shone brighter than they had in generations. The veil's light now blended with the natural glow of distant suns, creating a radiant tapestry visible across the spiral arms. Ships returned from missions long thought impossible. Planets awoke from long slumbers. Life, fragile and strong, continued its eternal journey. The Dauntless moved slowly through the calmed veil, carrying its crew and its story. They would return to Earth, but more importantly, they carried a lesson for every species. When despair fills the stars, hope can be the strongest power of all. Captain Elias finally allowed himself to relax. The mission had succeeded beyond expectation, and while the crew had faced dangers no one could have imagined, they had discovered something far greater. The human heart, combined with courage, creativity, and unity, could change the fate of an entire galaxy. And so, as the Dauntless sailed toward home, the galaxy began a new era. Not one of fear or war, but of connection, understanding, and hope. Humans, once underestimated, were now remembered as the species that brought salvation when all seemed lost. Across the stars, the veil pulsed gently, a living reminder of a lesson written not in weapons, not in numbers, but in music, stories, and courage, the heartbeat of life itself.